Welcome to another episode of Steelers Latest with your host, Jay Reels, or Jason Nazario, that is my government name, as we chronicle the Pittsburgh Steelers throughout training camp, obviously the preseason, leading up to week 1 of the NFL. Now, I want to talk about the cornerbacks. This is one of the last couple of units that we have to touch on. We've touched on all the offense. Go back to the archive and check that out. That was predominantly last week, or 2 weeks ago now that I think about it. And then this past week, we've been talking about the defense, and in particular the secondary, which right now could be the big question mark on this team. And even though there's plenty of talent, whether it's young or old, but still, it's a little bit unproven and to a certain extent untested, despite the fact that there is a lot of experience on this team. So with the expectations here in camp, knowing that Joey Porter Jr. is hurt and looking for a big deal, we'll talk about that in a moment. And as far as Jalen Ramsey goes, this is a guy, as we all know, an All-Pro, won a Super Bowl, a hard-hitting defensive back, but he's also been limited too with a knee injury. So right there off the bat, you have two guys that are going to be prominent in this secondary that have not even practiced, let alone even worked out or anything to that degree. So those are two big, giant keys as far as this Steeler defense is concerned, especially when it comes to the back seven, or part of the back seven, because we're also including the linebackers with that. But when it comes to the expectations, and again, we have plenty of experience there and age, whether your name is Deshaun Elliott, whether your name is Jaquan Brisker, who they brought in from Chicago, whether your name is Jamel Dean, a corner, to play opposite of Joey Porter when he's healthy, by way of Tampa. And when you have guys like that, the aforementioned Ramsey, even Porter to an extent, considering this will be his 4th year, there is a lot of age here on this team and depth to a certain extent, because depth at the safety position is what I'm going to talk about there in the last segment. But to me, this Steeler team, as far as this defense goes, and I've said this time after time, if you've followed Steelers Latest, if you haven't, please hit that subscribe button, because you'll definitely get clued in on everything that's happening with the Steelers through a fan's lens, and that, of course, being yours truly. But how I see this with the secondary is going to be very tricky. We already have the injuries, as we've talked about, and even though there are some age and some experience and depth, that's going to be the prevailing thought here going into the remainder of training camp, obviously the preseason, and let alone week 1 when the curtain raises, when the Falcons come to town there at Acrisure Stadium. So based on all of that, it does look promising. And on paper, it does look good. But we know that this secondary is not going to have its ill wills, whether it be by injury or who knows what kind of play we're going to get. I didn't even mention Brandon Echols. That's another guy there too that we'd throw in there, but I'm going to save him for the end. So you have all that and another cornerback that I'll also touch on. Again, there's a lot to go around here, which is a good thing. And it shows that the Steelers were prepared going into this camp knowing that their pass defense needed to increase significantly. And the GM, Omar Khan, has done that with the aforementioned Brisker and Dean and even Rayshawn Jenkins, who had played there, drafted by San Diego Chargers, the LA Chargers. So it is all right there for them to know that on paper, this team could be a formidable unit. But, and it's a big underlying but, we'll still have to wait and see with these injuries. And even Deshaun Elliott, a guy who's still recovering from a knee injury, hard-hitting safety as he is. But again, this is the one unit that I would certainly be a little dubious about, not because of them not having talent or the experience or anything, but health. And that is going to be one that we're going to have our fingers crossed without a doubt, because right now, although I like what I see based on the personnel and the back of the resume or back of the football card, whatever you want to call it, but I think this is going to be one, if you're a Steeler fan, you're going to hold your breath, because we do not know from, let alone one game to the next, from one day to the next, what we're going to get here when it comes to this secondary. So that's number one. The second thing I want to talk about is Joey Porter Jr. And we all know that the guys that were drafted in 2023, just 3 years ago, who already got in the bag, Nick Herbig, Darnell Washington, and just recently we had the scenario where Keanu Benson also got paid. So now Joey Porter's probably looking around saying, what about me? And you know what? He has an argument. We know that he's been a very solid corner there for the Steelers. I understand some of the personal fouls and the hand checking and, the illegal hands and things of that nature just make you scratch your head and they just get you crazy at times. But we know that he's made himself out to be a very good corner. The guy that they picked number 2 in 2023, the top of the draft there, the second round, where they got him from Penn State. And all we have to find out is whether or not this back is going to be sound. And I understand that maybe some of the Steeler hierarchy is questioning whether or not they want to fork over a boatload of money towards Porter, considering that, again, he's in a walk year scenario where the back isn't 100%. And I don't think they want to roll the dice just yet unless they find out that his back is sound. Because why not pay him, a guy who is, listen, he's not a generational corner, but he's a foundation player, a homegrown player, and why not sign him if they can? And you worry about next year with the guys like on their defense, TJ Watt and Cameron Hayward, who are making big-time coin, and who knows how much longer they have left on this team. But for Porter, he doesn't have a lot to prove, but that health is going to be an issue, because if he's not going to be able to get back there week one, whether or not that means Asante Samuel Jr., who I'll talk about in a little bit, whether or not he's going to be able to take his spot, who knows if Ramsey, if he's healthy, he will take that corner spot, because we know Jamel Dean's going to have the other opposite corner there once the season begins. So now Joey Porter Jr. is going to be a guy that we're going to wonder whether or not is he going to be healthy for week one, and not only that, will he be healthy throughout the entire season? It's not a leg injury. It's not an ankle where I get it. That could take its time, and who knows what's going to happen. It could crop up, whatever. But backs, forget about it. You wake up out of bed the wrong way, and that's it. You're going to be on the shelf. Or dare I even say he's going to bend over to tie his shoes, and he can't even do that. So with backs, you know, they're cranky, they're bulky, they're chronic, and that's not to say that he has that type of back. And he's a young guy, and you would think that he's going to fight through it, and everything's going to be gravy when it's all said and done. But hey, here we are now, well into training camp. The second preseason game is on the horizon. He's not going to play in that game. Who knows if he's going to get any burn in the third game if the back gets better. But he is going to be a big focal point. And even more so, that extension. Is that going to be a cloud hanging over his head, the Steelers' head, as a distraction, knowing that he should get paid, knowing that, hey, the other guys in my draft class got paid, what about me? And who knows? Now, Porter is not like his dad, senior, where obviously he is outspoken. He's going to speak his mind. It doesn't matter who's going to be in the room, whether it's the coach, whether it's the owner, who knows. Joey Porter Peasy, senior that is, was always a guy that was never afraid to speak his mind. His son is not really like that, but who knows? Will it be a situation where his father may influence him to be like, hey, you know what? You should sit out. Or, hey, I would start speaking my mind. Or who knows what's going to happen? Or maybe even Porter himself, as senior, steps in to kind of chime in on what's going on. But that's the thing. Is this going to be a scenario where it's going to linger, where it's going to hang around? He's not healthy. He's not going to get paid. Oh, when is he going to get paid? He should have gotten his extension. Oh, we're going to wait till after the season. He's going to walk. It's going to be a disaster. And I'm not trying to make Joey Porter Jr. out to be Rod Woodson. All right, so let's start there. But you do have to talk to the elephant, or get inside the elephant in the room with the scenario of what is going to happen with Joey Porter Jr. when it comes to his contract, when it comes to his health. Is it going to be a marriage that's going to last for 4 years? We would think they'd be extended. That is going to be, and right now, when you think about it, that is the elephant in the room here in this preseason, because everybody else has been paid, signed, sealed, delivered, etc. People retiring after this year. Who knows what the status will be? But Joey Porter Jr. is the one question mark that we don't know as of right this very second. And that one, who knows? It could either be nipped in the bud. Does he get paid? Is it a situation where we're going to have to wait and see? So that's going to be the mystery here over the course of the next couple of weeks. All right, now, just to break in the action, because I want to talk about this particular sponsorship, or partnership, I should say, when it comes to Kalshi. And this is one that is very important here to the channel for Fan Arch, the network that I'm on here, and what you're watching. Before the season even kicks off, everyone's making predictions. Who wins the division? Who makes the playoffs? Who's lifting the trophy at season's end? On Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade those predictions in a live market. So let's say, for instance, you want to pick the Pittsburgh Steelers as an over 8.5, and that's their number. So let's say you're going to have them as an over. As long as they get to 9, you're good. Now, the return on $100 means that you'll get 115. So if you feel that they're going to win or get over 8.5, and the trading probability, like I said, at 115, it's going to pay out $115. Or if you're going to take the under, chances are at between 125 and 140, you could actually earn $140. So you could actually make more if you happen to pick the Steelers at the under. So just remember that. $100 trade pays out $115 if you're getting the over, $140 if you're taking the under, if they do not reach over 8.5 wins, which is the total right now by Vegas, or if they're going to be under. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in or out of your position. So trade the draft pick, the game, and more on Kalshi. So download the Kalshi app and use code FANARCHFOOTBALL to get $10 off when you trade $10. Well, I should say to get $10 to trade $10, not $10 off. Let me reel that in. One more time to get $10 when you trade $10. Kalshi, Kalshi, as you see there on screen. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Kalshi products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. All right, so now as we move on to the next topic that I want to unpack, and here it is. A guy that was brought in last year to be the veteran presence, to be a guy who knows his way around the league, former All-Pro, number 6 pick, I believe, in the draft, way back 2016, I want to say. Jacksonville Jaguars, bounced around, Rams, as you know, Miami, and now here in Pittsburgh, Jalen Ramsey. And I think that this is maybe the anchor of this unit, only because of everything that I just mentioned. And a guy that is a borderline Hall of Famer. When you look at a guy like Jalen Ramsey, there's not many people out there in the league who has had that track record, who's had that resume that matches up against him. So for Ramsey, who's had this knee issue, and he's not young, I believe he's 31, he's got to be 32 years of age. I believe he was born in 94. And if he's going to be out for any significant amount of time, listen, you'll deal, you'll manage, etc. But to have that quarterback on the field, a guy who has played corner pretty much his whole career, has been the nickel, and also has played safety last year. So he's obviously a hybrid guy. He could be that linebacker if necessary. Obviously play free safety, to play center field, or try to intercept passes and read the quarterback's eyes. And for a guy like Ramsey, who is invaluable, but at the same time, knowing that he's getting up there in age and he's on the other side of the mountain, will this be a situation where health is going to be a big factor in order to get the former All-Pro up to snuff as far as being a guy that's going to play 15, 16, hopefully 17 games? And Ramsey, we know his influence is big. I understand a new coaching staff too. Last year, he had all the respect for Mike Tomlin. And I'm sure the same with Mike McCarthy. And obviously a new scheme, new defensive coordinator, the whole 9 yards. But for Ramsey, I think this is going to be enormous for him for this reason only. Not only because of the health, that's the obvious thing, but who knows how much more left he has in his football life. Is this going to be a situation where he's going to start breaking down in front of our eyes? Is this going to be a thing where he's going to be effective, but for whatever reason, he's going to start missing games, which technically could be the beginning of the end of this former All-Pro being a top flight or at least a super productive defensive back, whether that means he's going to play corner or the slot or at safety. And who knows, maybe safety will prolong his career, a la Rod Woodson. There goes his name again, especially when he went to the Raiders at the back end of his career and actually made a Super Bowl many moons ago for the black and silver. But for Ramsey, I think he could be that quarterback on the defense, or at least in the secondary, not necessarily the linebacking core, etc. But we can only hope, as Steeler fans, that Ramsey will be back week 1, raring to go. That'll be close to, if not at 100%. We understand he doesn't need the reps during practice. We understand that the preseason game, the final one, it's window dressing. He doesn't need to go in there. And heaven forbid, even if he wanted to go out there and he tweaked it or got hurt, forget it. We're going to miss a key component there of the secondary. So for Ramsey, how I see it, throughout the rest of the training camp, I'm sure he's just going to take it easy, just lay low, and get him ready for the Falcons there week 1, where we can only hope it's going to be the beginning of a good and long season for him, as opposed to him being in and out of the lineup and not being as effective as we've seen Ramsey throughout the course of his probable Hall of Fame career. And that's a problem when you look at it from that standpoint. All right, now here's going to be a very interesting one to close out this segment, and that is going to be the secondary help. And we talked about who's going to step up with the DB's expectations, but now even more so, who's going to step up at safety and corner. Now, we know about Deshaun Elliott coming off of that knee injury. You got to wonder whether or not he's going to be effective. We know that he hits hard. He's a very physical player. He's bounced around Ravens and cut the ball of the teams in the middle. But for Elliott, I know that he's going to be a big presence. And to have him there healthy, raring to go, is going to be of the utmost importance, especially when you got to have that physical secondary, a guy that's going to lay the wood and certainly maybe not put fear, but certainly put in the opposing wide receivers' minds that, I got to be careful when I run this route because he's going to come over and try to annihilate me. So Deshaun Elliott and Jaquan Brisker, a guy coming over from Chicago, I think that he could be another one. Went to played ball at Penn State, knows his way around the area. And I think Brisker is going to want to show and prove that, hey, I want to be a part of the Steelers defense to the point where I want to be productive. I want to make sure that we keep our identity to stay strong, stay intact, etc. So Brisker, I thought that was a very good signing. Then you also have a guy like Brandon Echols, who is going to be probably the nickel, even dime corner. He actually had some productive games there last year for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the one thing that you have to wonder about when it comes to the other corner, especially if Joey Porter Jr. isn't going to be there, is Asante Samuel Jr. He's had a very good camp. He's actually been very good against DK Metcalf. He's shown that for $4 million, a one-year deal that he signed, and remember, he was brought in last year right at roughly around the midway point of the season when the Steeler DBs were dropping like flies. So if Asante Samuel Jr. could continue his production there, who knows what that can mean for Joey Porter Jr. Not to say he's going to be unseated, but hey, $4 million as opposed to a guy that could be on his way out, who knows? But how I see it with the secondary, and this is the one thing that you'd have to really keep your fingers crossed, and I mentioned this before with the health, especially at safety, there's not a lot of depth there. This is a situation where the Rayshard Jenkins of the world, all right, he could step in, that's fine. But after that, I mean, who do you have? You don't have much, especially when you look at the depth chart. You got guys that are inexperienced. You got guys that haven't had a lot of playing time in the NFL. And if you're going to have a secondary, especially with safeties that are going to be exposed, whether it's by play action or run play options or things like that, or you have a cover two, but for whatever the reason, the safety didn't read it properly, and next thing you know, that receiver's going by the corner without any safety help, it could be dangerous. And I understand that Patrick Graham is going to come up with schemes to kind of keep his safeties, whether at bay or to be aggressive in the run game or to kind of hang back. Who knows? But as a fan, that's what I would expect. And because the secondary, for everything I said at the very top, the one thing is, especially in the safety position, it is very thin. So if Elliott is going to be hobbled by injuries, you got a problem there. A scenario where Rayshard Jenkins, who knows, as the guy that's going to be coming off the bench, if he's not going to be productive, they're going to have to go maybe in the waiver wire before the end of the training camp when the roster has to be paired to 53 men. And again, this is all one unit that could flourish, but it could also implode. And it's not because of the lack of experience, everything that I mentioned earlier, but how I see fit for this secondary is I'm sure Omar Khan is going to work the lines there toward the end of camp and try to bring more reinforcements to this team. I'm sure a veteran presence, etc. But right now, the secondary, Joey Porter Jr., question mark. Jalen Ramsey, question mark. Deshaun Elliott, to a certain extent, question mark. Although they have some good fill-ins, but the last thing the Steelers defense, especially that secondary, needs is that pass defense to be at the bottom rung of the NFL. Because if that's going to be the case and the linebackers and the defensive line are not going to be able to get home to pressure and sack the quarterback, we could be looking at another long season for the Pittsburgh Steelers in that defense. And hopefully that will not be the case. One more time, people, if you got to get your fix day in and day out on the Pittsburgh Steelers, this is a channel for you, I promise. Please hit that subscribe button and leave a comment in the description box below or in the comment box. Do you agree with what I said? Do you disagree? How do you think Ramsey will play out? Will Deshaun Elliott play an entire season? Joey Porter Jr., what's going to happen there? Do you think he's going to resign? Do you think this is going to be a cloud over his head and the organization's head? Please leave a comment in the description box. I'll be more than happy to follow up. Jay Reels signing off here for Steelers Latest. We'll be back here tomorrow. And until the next video, on the flip.